Alonzo Spellman, former NFL defensive lineman. Growing up, I used to think my man was just a goon. He was crazy. He was just ready. Like, Shorty used to sit on the bench by himself. You could see the steam coming from his head. The coaches ain't mess with him. His teammates really ain't sit with him. Like, I used to just think he was just the craziest dude in the NFL until I learned that he had bipolar, man, as I got older.
Alonzo Spellman just completed his first season with the Las Vegas Gladiators of the Arena Football League. It was a new beginning for a 34-year-old defensive lineman who lives each and every day with a disease that triggers bizarre and erratic behavior. A disease that prematurely ended Spellman's career in the NFL. Very nearly his life.
It feels like it feels like you're falling. You know what I mean? You're falling in a hole, and at first the hole is big, and you can see the sun, and you just getting that light getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're falling pretty far.
As a high school senior in 1988, it was Spellman's massive size, 6'4", 250 pounds, that set him apart. He grew into a 3-year standout at Ohio State. His athletic potential made him a first-round pick in the 1992 NFL Draft.
With the 22nd pick, the Chicago Bears select Alonzo Spellman.
Spellman was 20 years old, one of the youngest players ever taken in the draft. He had 30 sacks in his first 5 seasons with the Bears.
I was waking up every morning, coming out of my house and seeing my car, and looking at my clothes, and I was just like, man, this is great. It was like lights, cameras, action every morning when I woke up.
In 1996, things started to go wrong for Spellman. His relationship with the Bears deteriorated after a contract dispute. A shoulder injury forced him to miss the last 9 games of the 1997 season. Off the field, Spellman had run-ins with the police.
I was never specifically assigned to do a story on him, but I would have refused. I would have been afraid of him. He would go down the hallway screaming sometimes. I always thought myself that here's a ticking time bomb.
In March of 1998, Spellman's troubled career and personal life became public. He went into a rage, barricading himself in the suburban Chicago home of his publicist.
Defensive end Alonzo Spellman
Threw a cup and kicked his chair,
prompting a 911 call.
Authorities surrounded that home to contain the situation.
The police and the sheriff didn't want to get him out. The guy was 6'4", 300 pounds, and they didn't want to get in a confrontation with him.
Somebody that big, moving that fast, talking that fast, it gets scary.
We're surrounded by police, FBI, helicopters are flying around, and I'm hearing it, but I'm not really believing it or understanding it.
Former teammate and friend Mike Singletary rushed to the house after hearing reports on the radio.
Alonzo was just sitting there in a chair in the middle of the room, and he had been drinking a bit. And I walked in, and he's just sitting there. He's kind of out of it, really. And the only thing that he really asked me to do, he said, if you just promise me that you won't leave me, you'll stay with me, then I'll go.
Singletary escorted Spellman to a nearby hospital. But a day later, Spellman walked out and was found wandering barefoot along an Illinois highway. After police and medical staff members led him back inside the hospital, a doctor gave Spellman the diagnosis, a possible explanation for his behavior.
He said you have bipolar disorder 1, and he went into explaining it, and I was like, what? You know what I mean, what?
The classic symptoms of bipolar disorder were reflected in Spellman's manic highs and depressive lows. The player with the magnificent body suffered from chemical chaos in the brain.
Who wants to hear that they have chemicals in their brain that do what they want to do sometimes? Who wants to hear that?
Spellman chose not to take the daily medication that would stabilize him. Instead, he self-medicated with alcohol and illegal drugs. The Bears cut him in June, but by September, instead of playing football, Spellman was found sleeping in his car, parked in the fast lane of a highway. He was in complete denial over his condition.
The medical diagnosis doesn't, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't apply to me at all, because I don't take the drugs. Haven't taken them ever since this, the thing in the hospital, and haven't had any problems. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna have any problems.
And for 2 years, he didn't. In 1999, Spellman joined the Dallas Cowboys, who helped him deal with his condition over 2 productive seasons.
He's eaten alive. He's devoured.
In 2001, he signed with the Detroit Lions, but with only 3 tackles and a sack in 5 games, Spellman was cut.
I pretty much thought that was it. That was the end. So I started to act out, and I had another manic episode.
In July 2002, Spellman was aboard a Delta Airlines flight from Cincinnati to Philadelphia.
I believe he had a drink, and then after that, he started quoting things from the Bible. And then from there, he started saying that God didn't want us to get to Philadelphia, God would allow us to crash.
On a flight just 10 months after September 11th, passengers feared the worst, including Chris Wiscavage, who sat just 2 rows ahead of Spellman.
It just wouldn't seem like right to do at the time. And he was so close to 9/11, and he's making threats of crashing the mountains, crashing the plane, possible bomb on board, I could possibly rip off the door, because, I mean, the man at his size, I would imagine he could probably rip off the door.
Spellman was also verbally abusive to other passengers, including a young mother sitting in front of him.
I believe he called her a whore. And he said she wasn't a Christian for some reason. He kept on making negative reference to her for apparently no reason I could see. I believe the baby started crying. He's like, shut that baby up down.
Whatever came to my mind, I said it, and I said it out loud, and I said it very aggressively, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Spellman never acted out physically, but was later charged with both interference with a flight crew and 2 counts of simple assault.
What my opinion was, and still is today, is that his illness created a situation where he couldn't monitor himself, he couldn't stop himself.
Dr. Javier Amador interviewed Spellman for 10 hours, part of the case for his defense.
You know, we'd have a lot of sympathy for him if it was heart disease, or you know, people wouldn't stop and question, did he do this to himself? He didn't do this to himself. This is a no-fault beneficiary.
Spellman ultimately pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, where taking medication to control his bipolar disorder was mandatory.
Handcuffs, shackles, an orange suit, a dark room that you can't control the light. That'll pretty much put it in perspective for you, how important the medication is.
After serving 16 months, Spellman was released from prison in November 2003 and put on a 3-year probation. He contacted NFL teams hoping to land a tryout. Not one was interested. Last year, the Arena League's Las Vegas Gladiators, aware of Spellman's volatile history, thought he was worth the risk.
He knows this is his last chance. When I sat him down, I said, Alonzo, this is your second chance. There won't be a third. And he understands that.
At nearly 35, Spellman still earns a living as a professional football player, making 5 figures instead of NFL millions. He still signs autographs and goes out of his way to speak with children at local schools.
And if you are very good at school, which I want you all to be, then be good. Don't let anything stop you from being good at what you're good at.
As part of his probation, which ends this November, Spellman must see a psychiatrist weekly and take his medication daily.
You gotta say to yourself every day, I'm not gonna let myself do the things that I did before I'm not gonna let those things happen again. You know, make me stand up and do the things that I'm supposed to do, just like the next person. Don't be sorry for me one bit. Pray for me. Don't be sorry for me. Pray for me, God.